The General Hospital scoop for Monday, November 17th hints Laura Collins will cause a very public scene. Also coming up, Britt Westbourne will confront Emma Scorpio. Plus, Gio Palmieri will make an admission to Brooklyn Quartermain, and Portia Robinson will be stunned by Curtis Ashford's suggestion. GH spoilers tease Curtis will take Stella Henry's advice to heart and approach his estranged wife with an idea. "Are you about to suggest we stay together for the baby's sake?" Portia asks Curtis in the GH sneak peek. Over with Gio, who will feel incredibly guilty about Rocco Falconeri's arrest. "I'm the reason Rocco broke into the lab," he'll tell his mother. Although Brooklyn will be taken aback by his admission, will she provide some comfort to Gio? Meanwhile, Britt will be furious with Emma. At the hospital, she'll angrily grab her arm, and Emma will pull away and shout at Britt to get off of her. "Not until you and I get a few things straight," Britt will reply. Then she'll tell Emma Rocco's arrest is all her fault. But is Britt right? Other GH spoilers tease Lulu Falconeri will tell Carly Spencer she may have to do something drastic. Plus, Rick Lansing will suggest he and Alexis Davis call a truce. Finally, Laura will freak out on Henry Dalton for giving Justine Turner fabricated evidence against her grandson. "You are a liar!" she'll shout at the professor, as those gathered film her on their phones. But will Laura's out-of-control public display come back to bite her in the mayoral election? And could Dalton be about to meet his end? Keep watching GH to find out. At any rate, it looks like a great episode is coming up. Keep reading The Soap Scoop for more General Hospital spoilers and news. And make sure you join our free GH Facebook group. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Messy Syrup. It's me, Abby, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. General Hospital spoilers for the next 2 weeks, November 17th to November 28th, reveal that Harrison Chase will make a jackpot discovery while Professor Henry Hank Dalton faces a disturbing twist. Nathan West will also tackle a crisis, so there will be a lot happening in Port Charles. During the week of November 17 to 21st, Britt Westbourne will have a showdown with Emma Scorpio Drake, while Giovanni Gio Palmieri comes clean to Brooklyn Quartermain. After Gio updates Brooklyn on his part in Rocco Falconeri's legal drama, Dante Falconeri will find out that news too. GH spoilers say Dante's fury will explode, so Gio may face plenty of angry disappointment from his bio dad. Later, Britt will hand down an ultimatum, so we'll see if Jen Sidwell is on the receiving end. Since Britt knows she's valuable to the research, she may threaten to stop working on the project if this Rocco situation doesn't get fixed. Of course, Sidwell may remind Britt that her medication doses are at stake, but she may stand her ground anyway. No matter how things play out with Rocco, Sidwell may indeed take care of their Professor Dalton problem. After Laura Collins makes a scene by lashing out at Dalton in public, Sidwell may set her up for another scandal. It looks like Laura will face a horrifying ordeal in her car, so Sidwell might have Dalton thrown into traffic. Sidwell might even want it to seem like Laura ran over Dalton intentionally. Whatever the case, Laura may face a tough blow when it comes to the election results, and then deal with this car horror involving Dalton too. Nathan will leap into action and help Laura deal with the aftermath of the Dalton crisis while Britt gets rattled. Once Britt finds out Dalton is deceased, she may assume Sidwell is responsible and fears she could be next. Jason Morgan will put Britt through a grilling session later, so he may want answers about the research and why Dalton became a fatal target. As for Carly Spencer, she'll face Jack Brennan's interrogation and may have to cover any slip-ups that might hint at her plan with Valentine Cassadine. At the Metro Court, Sonny Corinthos will stop by Michael Corinthos' table as he's dining with Jacinda. Jacinda and Sonny will trade introductions, but Sonny may have an issue with Michael's alibi and this fake romance he's carrying on. After Chase fights harder on his personal investigation for Willow Tate's sake, he'll ultimately have something to report to Alexis Davis. Will that involve good reasons to believe Ezra Boyle was with Jacinda the night of Drew Kane's shooting? Could new evidence point in that direction? During the week of November 24-28th, Tracy Quartermain may rush home following her spa trip in France and see for herself that Ned Quartermain is okay. Ned will recover from his bypass surgery and may point the finger at Drew for leaving him following his collapse outside Bobby's. You can bet Tracy will rip into Drew for that sooner or later, but she'll also praise Gio for his role in helping to save the day. Thanksgiving is also coming up in Port Charles, so we'll see who gets a chance to celebrate and who's stuck worrying about family issues. As for Britt, will she finally let her walls down a little further with Jason? After all the Rocco and Dalton chaos, Britt may be tempted to open up about what she's really up against when it comes to Sidwell and this whole project. Meanwhile, Willow could feel some hope if Chase makes sure Michael's alibi with Jacinda falls apart, so his jackpot discovery could leave her feeling better about her case. General Hospital spoilers say the next 2 weeks will bring some shockers and shakeups, so stay tuned. General Hospital spoilers for Monday, November 17th. Reveal: Britt Westbourne will manhandle Emma Scorpio Drake, while Laura Collins has a public meltdown. Giovanni Gio Palmieri will also confess to Brooke Lynn Quartermain, so let's discuss all the drama ahead. At GH, Britt will grab Emma, who'll snap at her on Monday's episode. Emma will warn Britt to get off her, but Britt will refuse to let her go until they get a few things straight. Now that things have turned disastrous for Rocco Falconeri in court, Britt will lash out and perhaps accuse Emma of being the ringleader of this whole lab break-in crusade. As for Gio, he'll admit to Brooke Lynn that he's the reason Rocco broke into the lab. Gio will take responsibility for dragging Rocco into this mess, but Brooke Lynn may reassure him and try to soften the blow of Dante Falconeri's looming anger. Over with Lulu Spencer. She'll grow concerned about Rocco facing a prison sentence unless she does something drastic. Lulu will complain to Carly Spencer about Rocco being framed since the lab break-in wasn't as bad as Professor Henry Hank Dalton made it seem. Will Lulu want Carly to ask Jack Brennan for a favor? Brennan often serves as Mr. Fix-It when it comes to Carly's loved ones, so she may agree to see what he can do. As for Laura, she'll have a very public meltdown as people gather around her with cell phone cameras. It looks like Laura will corner Dalton and call him a liar now that he's presented bogus evidence to ADA Justine Turner. In Alexis Davis' office, Rick Lansing will admit he's trying to make peace with Sonny Corinthos and suggest maybe it's time to do the same with Alexis. Next, Curtis Ashford will have a tense conversation with Portia Robinson, who'll wonder if he's about to suggest they stay together for the baby's sake. It's possible Stella Henry's latest speech will get through to Curtis. Trina Robinson's pressure could also be a factor, so there's a chance Curtis might consider trying again with Portia. Of course, Portia may have reservations considering Curtis's obvious interest in Jordan Ashford and inability to stay away from her. General Hospital spoilers say Curtis, Portia, and Jordan will have a lot to figure out, so we'll bring you updates on any other love triangle news. General Hospital spoilers hint that Laura Collins might run over Professor Henry Hank Dalton. Will the professor get thrown in front of the mayor's car? Jens Sidwell's patience is wearing thin when it comes to unruly Dalton and all the trouble he's causing. Now that Dalton has framed Rocco Falconeri for lab destruction and drawn so much attention to their research, he may be a dead man walking. During the week of November 17th to 23rd, Sidwell's temper will flare once again. We could see Sidwell officially reach his breaking point with Dalton, so Pascal may receive orders to get rid of the professor permanently. Meanwhile, it looks like Laura will have a very public confrontation with Dalton and toss some threats at him. Since Dalton framed Rocco and has left Laura's grandson absolutely terrified, she may warn that he's not going to get away with this. Later, GH spoilers say the election results will be revealed, so Laura may have some bad news headed her way. This whole Rocco ordeal may be one scandal too many for the mayor, so we'll see if Ezra Boyle perhaps scores a victory. Laura will get in her car later and could be pretty distraught behind the wheel. Between Rocco's despair and this potential mayoral defeat, Laura could be having a really rough night. That night could go from bad to worse if Pascal throws Dalton into the path of Laura's vehicle. Sidwell might view it as a way to eliminate Dalton and get back at Laura at the same time. If Sidwell's efforts to score Sonny Corinthos' peers are blocked in the end, he's going to be livid. Sidwell may retaliate in a big way, so this Dalton situation may tie in with that. Laura's going to make a stunning discovery on November 20th, so she may realize she's hit someone with her car. If that's the case, and Laura learns it's Dalton, she may fear it'll look like she did this on purpose. The show released a pic that shows Laura crying in her car while Nathan West shines a flashlight on something nearby. Will Nathan be looking at Dalton's dead body after Laura runs over him? General Hospital spoilers say some fatal Dalton drama may be brewing, so stick with us for updates on any shockers to come. On the Friday, November 14th episode of General Hospital, Trina warned Jordan to back off of Curtis. Carly and Lucas fought over Marco, and Rocco's arraignment took a shocking turn. Lucas met with Carly and Jocelyn at Bobby's, and they wondered why he summoned them for a family meeting. He asked Carly about her recent trip, and she confirmed that it was a productive vacation. Carly asked him to stop stalling and spill his tea. He proclaimed, "Marco and I are moving in together." Carly was stunned at the news and questioned if he was certain about the choice. Jocelyn defended Lucas's decision, but when Lucas revealed where they would be living together, Carly snapped. After learning that Windermere was her brother's new home, Carly snipped, "Absolutely not, Lucas. That is not happening." Lucas was nervous about telling Carly about the big move because he figured her reaction would be negative. Carly was terrified about Lucas living in the same place as someone as dangerous as Sidwell. She was worried that his life was at stake if he lived there. Carly cited Sidwell as the person behind the fire at Charlie's and called him a homicidal maniac. He tried comparing Sidwell to Sonny, but she refused to accept the comparison. Carly believed that Lucas wanted the world to see that he had moved on from Brad. Jocelyn tried to intervene, but Carly cut her off. She accused Marco of using Lucas as a means to an end to get close to Sonny. Lucas couldn't believe what his sister said to him, and Jocelyn looked on conflicted between her true feelings and her WSB orders. Carly didn't want to hurt Lucas, but she didn't want him to move in with Marco. She looked for Jocelyn to back her up, but instead, she defended her uncle's decision. Jocelyn told Lucas to do what felt right for him. Lucas stormed away, leaving Carly devastated. Jocelyn asked if Carly truly thought that Marco would use Lucas for it. She asked her not to smooth things over, and told Jocelyn she was extremely disappointed in her. Carly slipped and mentioned how Jocelyn knew more than anyone how dangerous Sidwell was. Also at Bobby's were Stella and Curtis, and she told him she knew he had a secret. He asked who told her, but she claimed that nobody told her anything. She works at the hospital with Portia and deduced her pregnancy. He was flabbergasted that Stella figured it out and asked her to keep it to herself. However, despite her excitement, he explained that things were more complicated than she realized. Curtis revealed that his marriage was coming to an end, and she instantly told him that it wasn't. He reasoned that the divorce wasn't as sudden as it seemed, and she knew it was coming. Still, Stella thought they worked toward fixing their marriage, but Curtis confessed that the trust wasn't there. Stella provided him with a timeline of the pregnancy to help things work with Portia. Stella thought the baby changed everything. Curtis did his best to make her understand that he could be a good father without being married to Portia. At the Jerome Gallery, Ava noticed that something troubled Trina. She inquired about it, but Trina confessed that it was something personal involving someone else. Ava urged her to remember that she could tell her anything, and she confided in Ava that Curtis and Portia were getting a divorce. Trina was conflicted about her feelings because, despite not knowing Curtis was her father until recently, she knew how much they loved each other. Trina recounted how Portia stood by his side throughout his shooting injury, and she believed there was some sort of interference in their marriage. Jordan, Sidwell, and Marco arrived in the midst of the conversation, possibly with Sidwell eyeing new pieces for Windermere. Ava congratulated Marco for taking the next step with Lucas in their relationship. He invited her to join them for dinner in the future, which she quickly accepted. Trina shifted attention to Jordan and asked what business she had at the gallery. Jordan revealed she was ready to furnish her new place with some art pieces and asked Trina to show her around. Once they were alone, Trina confronted Jordan for meddling in her parents' marriage. Jordan tried to claim that she was hands-off about the situation, but Trina was itching for a fight. She accused Jordan of pursuing Curtis from the beginning of his relationship with Portia. Jordan tried to blame Portia for how Trina was accosting her, but Trina claimed she saw it for herself. and Jordan was as transparent as glass. Jordan attempted to defuse the situation, but as hard as she tried, Trina was well prepared. She said, "My dad loves me, and he listens to me, and I'm going to make sure that he never goes back to you." Rick met with Turner at the PCPD to discuss the charges against Rocco. She was surprised to see Rick taking on a case involving his brother's grandson, and Rick said that his being attached to the case should be a shining example of how important it was to Sonny. Turner recalled Rocco's underage drinking past, and she wanted to teach him a lesson. However, Rick wondered if Turned wanted to make an impression on Sonny and send a message through his grandchild. Rick threatened to shoot holes in the story being put forth by the prosecution. Turner lowered her sentencing suggestion from a year of community service to 6 months and told Rick to take or leave the offer. Britt raced to the PCPD to speak to the police commissioner about Rocco's case. Nathan intercepted her, but with Dante as acting commissioner, Britt didn't think Rocco would face any trouble with his father in charge. Considering nobody was hurt and there was no damage, Britt didn't think Rocco faced any serious punishments. Nathan agreed that Rocco was being used for political leverage, but they couldn't overlook the fact that Rocco had been caught in the act with key evidence. Britt said that the entire situation had her thinking about Liesel, which left Nathan perplexed. She didn't want Rocco to be painted out like a town pariah in the way that she or Liesel had been in the past. Nathan didn't think Liesel and Rocco had much in common, and he made a joke that eased Britt's anxiety. Nathan agreed to accompany Britt for the arrangement, but on their way out, she noticed Dalton entering the PCPD. Dalton waltzed into the interrogation room and introduced himself to Turner. He wanted her to hear everything he had to say before she left for Rocco's arraignment. At Sonny's house, Lulu asked Sonny if he was certain about Rick being the best choice to represent Rocco against the charges. Sonny admitted that while Rick had his faults, he believed Rick was a good option to help him evade punishment. She was concerned that her mother's mayoral opponent was determined to give Rocco a criminal record. Sonny didn't think Ezra cared about anything more than crushing Laura in the election. Lulu had trouble wrapping her head around how they came to break into Dalton's lab. She was confused about how they had gotten the impression that Dalton was conducting illegal animal testing. Lulu was upset at the situation that her son was in, but she was also proud of Rocco for taking the fall by himself and leaving Charlotte and Danny out of it. Not everyone would have that type of loyalty. Sonny believed that he got that type of bravery from Dante and Lulu. Rocco told Gio that he didn't see a need for him and the others to face any punishment for breaking into Dalton's lab. He didn't want anyone going down for it if they didn't have to. Considering Dante and Gio's strained father-son relationship, Rocco didn't want to further complicate things. Gio was having a crisis of conscience about the ordeal, but Rocco accepted his role in things escalating. Emma called it off, but he decided to proceed anyway and break into the lab. Danny and Charlotte followed suit, and Rocco was terrified that Drew would use it as leverage against Danny if he knew he was involved. Rocco encouraged his brother not to worry about the outcome. They went inside and hugged it out before Rocco left for court with Sonny and Lulu. Sonny promised to inform Gio of the outcome. Emma showed up not long after, hoping to check in with him because of the dueling traumas of Ned's health scare and Rocco's court appearance. Emma agreed with Sonny that coming forward wouldn't help Rocco's situation and would exacerbate things further. Laura approached Dante at the courthouse, looking for an update on Rocco's mental state. Dante explained that Rocco was at Sonny's with Lulu to prepare for the pending arraignment. He asked Laura how she felt about the election, now that it had finally arrived, but she was more focused on her grandson's arraignment. Dante didn't think Laura should be at the courthouse on election night due to the optics. Laura missed the debate because of what happened with Rocco, so Ezra could use her absence at the courthouse to paint a picture of her using her office to help him. Laura told Dante that family comes first, and although he loved being mayor, she wasn't missing out on being there for her grandson. He encouraged her to think about Port Charles and how badly they needed her to lead the city. The optics of La'ara sitting with Sonny in a court of law would be spun by Ezra and regurgitated to the public in the worst way. She didn't want that, but Dante didn't think Rocco faced any serious sentencing. Laura was worried about how Rocco would feel if she wasn't there to support him. Rick told Sunny, Lulu, and Rocco that he reached a tentative deal with Turner for a light sentencing. Rick invited him into the courtroom, where Laura, Dante, Britt, and Nathan awaited him as his support system. Britt told him that everyone had his back and everything would work out. Rocco was thrilled to see Laura as one of the gallery supporters, and he understood if she hadn't been able to attend, but he was elated that she made it. Laura sat directly next to Sunny at the arrangement, refusing to hide how she felt. Turner arrived with a bizarre expression, which Sunny picked up on. The judge emerged from his chambers and instructed everyone to take their seats. He asked Rocco to stand and recounted his charges. Rick attempted to discuss the plea deal, but Turner announced that they had revised the charges, and the plea deal was no longer in effect. Marco also arrived at the courthouse, and Britt was perplexed by his presence there. Turner issued a new slew of charges against Rocco, and the courtroom was aghast at the decisions. Rick wanted a postponement, but Turner had photographs of a destroyed lab and claimed Dalton provided them to her. Laura believed the new evidence was fabricated, and Sunny sensed that something was off about the situation. Rick confessed that nothing was going as he expected, and he had no idea what to expect. The judge left everyone stunned when he announced that Rocco be remanded without bail. Dante promised to help him through it. As Rocco panicked, Marco phoned Sidwell, saying, "It's over, and it's worse than we feared." Sunny and Turner locked eyes, and Laura whispered to him, "Our grandson's been framed." General Hospital spoilers hint that Pascal may kill Professor Henry Hank Dalton on Gen Z Sidwell's orders. Will Sidwell decide that the problematic professor must go? Sidwell was already fed up with Dalton's lack of progress when he demoted him to work under Britt Westbourne. Britt also ratted Dalton out for pitching a new lucrative deal that didn't involve Sidwell at all. Now Dalton is disobeying Sidwell once again since he's refusing to back off on the break-in charges against Rocco Falconeri. The last thing they need is the cops digging into what's really going on in the lab. But Dalton is too riled up to care. Since Dalton felt personally humiliated by Laura Collins, he's determined to get back at her by making her grandson suffer. Dalton consistently finds ways to prove he's an incompetent wildcard who doesn't know how to follow instructions. After Dalton stormed out on Sidwell in GH's November 13th episode, Sidwell's expression hinted at trouble. Dalton is an issue that needs to be handled sooner rather than later, so that may be what Sidwell was deciding in that moment. If Sidwell decides to wipe Dalton off the map, that may be a project for Pascal. Although Pascal is Sidwell's new butler at Windermere, he's got experience carrying out fatal orders. That was evident during Pascal's time supervising things at the Five Poppies Resort. Sidwell may determine that Dalton needs to be taken care of and put Pascal to work on making it happen. Of course, Sidwell won't want to leave any trail behind that might tie him to Dalton's demise. It's possible Sidwell could try to frame Sonny Corinthos due to his link to Rocco and make another mess for the mob boss. However, it's also possible Sidwell will just want Dalton to disappear, or that he'll try to make this seem like an accident. Whatever the case, Dalton's days may be numbered, so stick with us for updates on any fatal professor news that might be brewing. General Hospital spoilers say Sidwell has more disturbing tricks up his sleeve no matter what. General Hospital spoilers hint that Drew Kane may have a new woman in his future. Will a messy pairing follow Drew's inevitable Willow-Tate split? Drew is still fighting hard for a fresh chapter with Willow, but it seems like a lost cause. Willow is clinging to Drew as one of the few people who actually wants to help her, but she's clearly just using him at this point. Whatever love Willow had for Drew is tainted by this whole custody mess. There's no way Drew and Willow will still have a real future by the end of all this. Unfortunately, Drew has managed to alienate just about everyone in Port Charles with his awful behavior. There aren't a lot of women around town who'll be jumping at the chance to be with Drew once he's single again. However, Drew's going to need a love interest anyway, so who's it going to be? Could Drew get paired up with another town pariah who perhaps doesn't think she's worthy of a better man deep down? That brings us to Britt Westbourne, who's tangled up in a dangerous project that's putting a lot of lives at risk. Jason Morgan keeps trying to convince Britt that she's a good person at heart, but she doesn't believe that considering the secrets she's keeping and the work she's doing for the sake of her medication doses. Britt and Jason seem like they're headed down a romantic path right now, but that could change once Britt's secrets come to light. Since Britt isn't telling the whole story about Nathan West and other pieces of the Cesar Faison puzzle, there's a chance she'll ruin things with Jason, or at least push him away. We could be gearing up for a situation where Drew's sulking all alone after losing Willow and making all of Port Charles loathe him. Britt may feel like she's in a similar boat if she angers Jason and feels like no one's left in her corner. Could Britt and Drew be on a romantic collision course as a result? It's easy to imagine Drew and Britt having a one-night stand or something more if GH writers decide to actually pair them up. You can bet Drew would love to swoop in and make a move on Jason's latest love interest. Drew stole Willow away from Michael Corinthos and might take great pleasure in the idea of stealing Britt away from Jason too. As for Britt, she might end up thinking horrible Drew is the kind of man she deserves. Of course, all this could bring out Jason's protective side and make him determined to get Britt out of Drew's orbit. It'd be the perfect writing strategy to pull Jason closer again and make him want Britt back. Regardless, General Hospital spoilers say Jason and Britt's romance won't go according to plan, so stay tuned for updates on any bad news that might push her in Drew's direction. General Hospital's teen scene is often a sight to behold, with some of the most realistic kids we have ever seen on soaps. This week, the teens got themselves in some major trouble with Rocco at the center. Finn Carr took his job seriously, as the kid who sacrificed for his brother, just to wind up in handcuffs, after Emma told Rocco, Danny, and Charlotte not to break into Professor Dalton's. As their plans were put on hold due to Ned's heart attack, the kids did it anyway, thinking they could get what they needed and get out in no time. Carr wore Rocco's nerves like a badge of honor, as he often does. Of the two teen boys, Rocco is the more studious one, the good kid with a wild side dying to break free. We saw a little of that last spring when Rocco drank too much at a college party and ended up with alcohol poisoning. We saw it again when Rocco confronted Professor Dalton. Rocco was ready to be the hero for his brother and sister when Dalton returned to the lab before they were gone. He allowed himself to be caught and even got a little fresh with the professor when he mentioned Dalton gives bad tips. Carr showed us how proud Rocco was of himself, but the nerves were always there right beneath the surface. By the time Dalton got Rocco to the debate prep area so Laura could take over, Carr had turned his character back into the frightened kid he really was. Carr didn't have to say much, as Rocco didn't actually say much. All he had to do was act with his face because his expression said so much. As Rocco and Laura both realized there was no saving him from the cops, all we wanted to do was reach through the screen and give the kid a big ol' hug. When Rocco finally faced his mom at the PCPD, his guilt over his activities was palpable. We could see it in his eyes and hear it in his voice. When Rocco learned he wouldn't be getting community service, but would instead face a trial, Carr's panic broke our hearts in scenes that aired on his 17th birthday. We are sure Rocco will do more wrong things while trying to do the right thing before his teenage years are through. And we can't wait to see Finn Carr grow with his endearing character. General Hospital recap for Friday, November 14th reveals that Rocco Falconeri was framed for worse crimes, so Rick Lansing's plea deal fell apart. Friday's GH episode featured plenty of powerful scenes, so it's how it all went down. At Bobby's, Stella Henry admitted to Curtis Ashford that she'd figured out Portia Robinson was pregnant. Curtis confessed they were divorcing anyway, but she pushed him to work things out with Portia for the baby's sake. At the gallery, Trina Robinson talked to Ava about her parents' divorce before Jordan Ashford showed up with Jen Sidwell and Marco Rios. Trina led Jordan away from the others to show her some artwork for her new apartment, which led to tension and Trina's warning. Since Curtis listened to her, Trina insisted she'd make sure he never went back to Jordan. Back at Bobby's, Lucas Jones told Carly Spencer and Jocelyn Jacks that he was moving in with Marco at Windermere. Carly immediately flipped out and insisted it wasn't happening, but Jocelyn defended Lucas's right to live his own life. After Carly ranted about Jen Sidwell and suggested Marco was using Lucas, there was more tension. Lucas was hurt as he exited and headed to the gallery, where he hugged Ava for being so supportive. As for Carly, she snapped about how she'd never been so disappointed in Jocelyn. Carly insisted Jocelyn knew better than anyone how dangerous Sidwell could be. At one point, Sidwell also spoke to Ava about his desire for a bridge to peace with Carly and maybe even Sonny. Ava thought it might be a bridge to nowhere with Carly, but she felt things with Sonny would depend on what happened with his peers. Now that Lucas was moving in with Marco, Sidwell suggested that practically made him family with Ava and intrigued her. At the PCPD, Rick worked out a misdemeanor deal with ADA Justine Turner, which involved Rocco getting 6 months of community service. Once Britt Westbourne returned to the police station for updates, Nathan West assured her that Rocco would likely get a slap on the wrist. As Britt and Nathan were leaving for Rocco's arraignment, Britt looked concerned over Professor Henry Hank Dalton entering to speak with ADA Turner. Dalton indeed cornered Justine soon after, and stressed the importance of talking to her about the lab break-in before she went to court. At Sonny Corinthos' place, he tried to ease Lulu Spencer's mind about Rick's abilities as an attorney. Lulu found herself wondering how the teens even settled on the idea that Dalton was doing illegal animal testing. Meanwhile, Giovanni Gio Palmieri expressed his guilt to Rocco since he was the only one in legal trouble for all this. Rocco offered reassurance and ultimately hugged Gio before he went to court. When Emma joined Gio later, he admitted he didn't know if he could live with Rocco taking all the blame. Emma insisted this was her fault, but Gio wanted to confess his part to Rocco's parents and leave her out of it. Emma argued that she would confess too and added that they'd do it together. So Gio took her hand and smiled at her. At the courthouse, Dante Falconeri voiced concerns about the optics of Laura's presence, considering she was trying to win a mayoral election, but she insisted on being there for Rocco's arraignment. Rocco was pleased to see Nathan, Britt, Sonny, Laura, Dante, and Lulu were all in the courtroom to support him. Marco also popped up, and claimant Diane Miller wanted him to report back with news on what happened. Rick was clearly feeling good about the plea deal he worked out, but Justine insisted it was off the table once court was in session. ADA Turner talked about new evidence coming to light that pointed to Rocco destroying proprietary information. Plus, there were hazardous materials on site that could have put lives at risk. Rick approached the judge and tried to request a postponement due to Justine's curveball, but the judge argued there'd be time to prepare between now and the trial. Since Dalton never mentioned Rocco destroying anything during his earlier face-off with Laura, she knew this was a frame-up. Sonny also acknowledged this was suspicious and eventually glared at Justine. The judge set Rocco's bail hearing for 2 days from now and insisted he'd be remanded into custody until then. Rocco panicked and had a courtroom outburst, but Rick, Lulu, and Dante settled him down. Nathan also offered Rocco reassurance as he was hauled off in handcuffs. Finally, Marco got Sidwell on the phone and hinted about the outcome being worse than they feared. General Hospital spoilers say Dalton could be a goner now that he's so boldly going against Sidwell, so stay tuned. The actress celebrates her General Hospital anniversary. General Hospital star Braden Bruner is sharing some special moments with fans as she marks a huge milestone with the ABC soap. Bruner used Instagram to celebrate 1 year since she taped her first scenes at GH. The actress included several photos from the past year that included good times with her co-stars, like Lynn Herring, Chris McKenna, Kelly Thiebaud, Tanisha Harper, Jane Elliott, Cameron Matheson, Finola Hughes, Christina Wagner, and Giovanni Mazza, just to name a few. 1 year ago today, I stepped into the role of Emma Scorpio Drake at General Hospital, and my life has been forever changed. Since as long as I can remember, I knew I wanted to act and tell stories that mattered, and now I get to do just that every single day, alongside a cast and crew that quickly became my family. Thank you guys for supporting me and loving this crazy, amazing, and legendary show. I can't wait for everyone to see what the future has in store for her, she wrote as her caption. Some fans were quick to point out that Bruner didn't appear on screen until December, and were confused by her post. However, the post is a celebration of her first day filming, not the first day she was on screen. Remember, the show films episodes a few weeks in advance. Bruner was flooded with love from GH colleagues in the comments section of her Instagram post. "Love you, Braden. You're a class act, and I am so happy you came and auditioned that day. Cannot believe it is a whole year, declared Hughes. Maza shared, "You are sort of the coolest person I've ever met. It's not easy being the new girl on the block. Your stamina is amazing, and so are you. Big hugs," insisted Wagner. McKenna wrote, "You're a star, lady," while Eden McCoy expressed, "Love you, mama." "You are killing it as Emma. We are so happy you are here," insisted Harper, and Thibault expressed, "We love you, Braden. Don't miss a minute of what's ahead in Port Charles." General Hospital spoilers for the week of November 17th to 20th, 2025. Tease the aftermath of Rocco's shocking arraignment and the election results we've all been waiting for. Rocco and his loved ones were shocked by the turn of events during his arraignment. Rick had an easy plea deal in the bag, but after Dalton lied to A.D. Turner and claimed Rocco trashed his lab, she had no choice but to up his charges. Now, Rocco's family is in scrambles as he's being dragged off to a jail cell. On Monday, Dante will lose his temper after just being named acting police commissioner, while Lulu is left to confide in Carly. Her cousin has been here before with a son in jail, so if anyone can reassure the worried mom, it's Carly. Tuesday will see the aftermath of Dalton's lie when Sidwell fumes over his betrayal, while Britt has an ultimatum for someone. This villainous trio make a great team for evil, but now it may be time for Sidwell and Britt to team up against Dalton. Wednesday will see the results of the mayoral election in Port Charles, and even more importantly, the results of the vote on Measure C. Not only will we soon learn who the next mayor of Port Charles is, Laura or Ezra, but we'll also learn whether Sonny gets to keep his precious peers. On Monday, Trina is back on our screens after her tiff with Jordan. Spoilers tease she'll want to confess, but to what? She's been so wrapped up in her parents' deteriorating marriage, but now it looks like she may turn her attention back to stealing the evidence against her mom from Drew with Kai. But why confess? Over in Port Charles's romance department, Michael will introduce his new sort of girlfriend to Sonny, while Marco and Lucas have dinner with Ava. In an exclusive clip from Maurice Benard's upcoming State of Mind podcast episode with Jeannie Francis, the two General Hospital stars remember the legendary co-stars they've lost in recent years. Benard has been hyping up his new two-part podcast interview, set to air on November 16th and November 23rd, respectively, and with good reason. Sitting down with him will be Francis Seaves, the GH vet who is one half of the iconic Luke and Laura and has spent nearly 30 years in Port Charles. In Francis's first ever appearance on State of Mind, the actors take a profound moment to remember the many co-stars they've lost in recent years. Leslie Charleson, Tristan Rogers, Jackie Zeman, and Francis's on-screen son Tyler Christopher. Benard went about the moment simply, letting Francis be in the spotlight to remember their co-stars. As Benard read off each name, Francis was tasked with saying whatever came to her mind and heart. They started with Rogers, who Francis immediately called delightful. She went on to compliment his talent, calling him a bright star who deserved to land in the movies. Rogers lost his battle with lung cancer in August and made his final appearance on GH and Jaliek. Benard followed up with GH's longest-running cast member, Charleson, who passed away in January. Her character, Monica, passed away in September, allowing the show to remember both the actress and the character. Francis remembered Charleson being the first actor she was on live television with, and recalled a moment when Charleson forgot her line. When the scene ended, she wept, and we held each other, and I cried. Zeman was next on Benard's list, whose character often played in close quarters with Francis's, until Zeman lost her cancer battle in 2023. The actress spoke with so much fondness in her voice when she responded, "Jackie Zeman, I loved her so much." Francis went on to admit how much she admired Zeman and regrets how afraid she was whenever her cool big sister asked her out for lunch. Benard concluded with Christopher, who originated the role of Nicholas and tragically passed away in 2023. After referring to him as a beautiful angel, Francis continued with, "He was not equipped to live in this world." Benard also shared thoughts on the late actors, admitting he didn't get to know them until they appeared on State of Mind. "I was like, wow, these people are beautiful. I just didn't know them." Things aren't looking good for Rocco. Things didn't go as expected for Rocco during his arraignment on the November 14th, 2025 episode of General Hospital. They went so much worse. Everyone was up bright and early for Rocco's arraignment in the morning. While Sunny tried reassuring Lulu, Laura was determined to stay by her grandson's side no matter what it did to her mayoral campaign. All the while, Rocco and Gio know the truth about their ultimate plan for Dalton's lab, but Rocco made his brother promise not to turn himself in. When Rocco arrived to the courthouse and met with his new lawyer, Rick, he was happily surprised to see the turnout on his side of the courtroom. Along with his parents and grandparents were also Britt and Nathan. But at the same time, Ada Turner was being held up at the police station when Dalton arrived, needing to give her all the facts about what Rocco did to his lab. By the time court was in session, Ada Turner had no choice but to pursue new charges against Rocco after Dalton claimed he trashed the lab. After Rocco was sentenced to jail as he awaits trial, with a bail hearing 2 days away, it was Laura and Sunny who knew something wasn't right. Laura was sure Dalton would have mentioned Rocco trashing his lab, while Sunny only looked over at Justine in disgust. Laura and Sunny, don't miss this first look at Francis on Bernard's new podcast episode, stood there ready to fight for their grandson, and they aren't the only ones. General Hospital spoilers for November 17th tease an enraged Dante and a worried Lulu now that Rocco has been hauled off to jail. As for Gio, he was already prepared to turn himself in, along with Emma. But once he finds out his brother is in jail, Dante may have a lot on his plate as police commissioner with both sons' freedom in jeopardy. Maxie's daughter needs to take her rightful place in Port Charles. General Hospital has always done a great job with its teen stories, and the current one is really heating up. Danny, Rocco, and Charlotte are great together, but they could really use a fourth. Georgie is the daughter of GH favorites Maxie and Spinelli, and the granddaughter of legends Felicia and Frisco. Dis taspasti, raised by Mac. She is practically Port Charles royalty. Her mom is currently in a coma, but her dad and Grandma Felicia have been all over town with her brother James. There has been no sign of Georgie or her little sister Bailey Lou. It's a little odd. Port Charles kids tend to disappear and reappear at any time. Fans love the threesome of Danny, Rocco, and Charlotte. They are really stepping up and following in their parents' footsteps. The three have become a team to help Emma and Gio fight animal cruelty. They happen to be getting themselves in deep trouble, but that is par for the course for a teen from Port Charles. GH has been successful with teen stories for years, but they have traditionally been teams of 4. Think Lucky, Elizabeth, Nicholas, and Emily. More recently, we saw Jocelyn, Trina, Spencer, and Cameron take center stage. It's the last person anyone would expect. General Hospital keeps throwing suspects at us in the Who Shot Drew mystery. Was it Willow, Michael, Portia, Nina, Jacinda? They all have good reasons to do it. But there is one person who has the best reason to want Drew gone. And so far, no one has considered them. You'd think, what with gaslighting Willow, taunting Michael, harassing Portia, and trying to steal Monica's house, not to mention swiping Tracy's luggage, Drew would have no time to be making his daughter Scout's life miserable. And if you ask Drew, it's not Scout he's trying to make miserable. It's her brothers, Danny and Rocco, and her grandmother, Alexis. Drew is throwing out restraining orders, right and left, to keep them all away from his little girl. For her own good, of course. Well, Scout isn't appreciating his efforts. She hasn't said much about it to Drew. Probably because the poor girl has already lost her mother, Sam. Drew has isolated her from most of her family. Scout doesn't want to risk losing her father's life, too. While he's alive, that is. If Scout is forced to live with only Drew, it would be nice if he didn't hate her. On the other hand, if Scout didn't have to live with Drew, if he were, say, dead, why, that would be a whole other story. If Drew were out of the way, Scout could see her brothers, and her grandma, and her aunts, and basically anyone she wanted, without fear that Drew might remember that they snubbed him in an elevator once by letting the door shut in his face, and now he has a score to settle. Could Scout have been the one to shoot Drew? Maybe because she heard about this girl in Salem who shot her uncle and got away with it, scot-free. No one wants to see Eddie Main again. Ned's heart attack on General Hospital brings to mind the last time his loved ones were gathered around him, waiting for news. Let's hope the outcome is different. Amnesia is a very popular ailment on soaps. Sometimes characters remember a portion of their lives, while others have no memory at all. Occasionally, they believe they are a completely different person. This was the mites with Ned in 2003. He slipped while running to tell Drew that it was Nina who ratted him and Carly out to the SEC. He fell and hit his head at the Metro Court pool. When Ned woke up at GH, he believed he was his alter ego, rock star Eddie Main. Eventually, he returned to his loved ones as himself. Heart attacks do not cause amnesia, but this is a soap where anything is possible. Even so, no one wants another Eddie Main situation. Ned is Ned, and his family needs him. Drew was there years ago when Ned fell at the pool, but that was when he was still a good guy. A very different Drew witnessed Ned's heart attack. Not only did he not try to help, but he also laughed at his cousin while he was gasping for air, accused him of faking it, and walked away, leaving him to die on the sidewalk. Thank goodness Gio, Emma, and Britt were there to save him. Ned needs to be himself for his family, but also to reveal what Drew did. Leaving someone in danger may not be against the law, but everyone needs to hear about Drew's latest evil deed. If Tracy doesn't kill him after this, Jason might. General Hospital spoilers tease that Tracy Quartermain has another reason to despise Q wannabe Drew Kane. Evil Drew walked away from Ned Quartermain while he suffered a heart attack outside of Bobby's. Drew will say he thought Ned was faking it, but is that any excuse? Longtime GH fans will remember the fateful episode in which Tracy let her own father, Edward Quartermain, writhe around on the floor when he was in a similar situation. Except that time he was faking, and Tracy knowingly withheld his heart medication. Is this a case of the chickens coming home to roost? That depends on your worldview, but one thing is certain, Tracy will be loaded for bear. In the November 10th episode, Drew and Ned argued outside of the diner when Ned suddenly collapsed. Shouldn't Drew have checked to see if Ned was in crisis? A normal person would have, but this is Congressman Crooked we're talking about. As much as Tracy hates Drew, she called 911 after she found him shot in his own home. We'd like to think that Tracy learned her lesson with that charitable move, but she will be furious when she finds out that Drew left Ned to suffer. Tracy is cooling her jets at a spa in France, following the Monica Quartermain will boondoggle. That rest will be cut short now that Ned needs a heart bypass operation at GH. We predict that Tracy turns on Drew before he knows what's coming. He will think being a Navy SEAL was a piece of cake in comparison to what Tracy dishes out. Soapy General Hospital spoilers hint that Tracy and Drew hit a new low when she returns to town. However, you know what they say when one hits rock bottom? There's only one way to go, and that's up. Can Drew feel bad for what he did to Ned and change? Stranger things have happened, soap fans. Tell us what you think of Tracy getting revenge on Drew. How far will she go? Be sure to catch up on everything happening with General Hospital right now. Come back here often for the hottest GH updates, news, and spoilers. Get comfortable and gain access to the best soap intel on the web. General Hospital spoilers and updates suggest that Pascal might be compelled to take the drastic step of eliminating Professor Henry Hank Dalton on orders from Gen Z Sidwell. Is it possible that Sidwell has reached a breaking point and concluded that the troublesome professor must be dealt with permanently? Sidwell has already expressed his frustration with Dalton's lack of advancement, which led to Dalton being demoted to a position under Britt Westbourne. To add insult to injury, Britt has also reported Dalton for attempting to propose a new profitable deal that completely excluded Sidwell. Now, Dalton is once again defying Sidwell by refusing to withdraw the break-in charges against Rocco Falconeri. The last thing they want is for the police to start investigating the true happenings within the lab, yet Dalton seems too agitated to consider the consequences. After feeling deeply humiliated by Laura Collins, Dalton is hell-bent on seeking revenge by targeting her grandson, determined to make him pay for the perceived slight. Dalton has a knack for demonstrating that he is an unpredictable wildcard, consistently showing his inability to adhere to instructions. Following his dramatic exit from Sidwell during the November 13th episode of GH, Sidwell's facial expression suggested that trouble was brewing. Dalton is a problem that requires immediate attention, which might have been what Sidwell was contemplating at that moment. Should Sidwell choose to eliminate Dalton from the equation, it could very well become a task for Pascal. Even though Pascal is the new butler at Windermere, he possesses a wealth of experience in executing lethal commands. This was clearly illustrated during Pascal's tenure overseeing operations at the Five Poppies Resort. Sidwell might conclude that Dalton needs to be dealt with and enlist Pascal to carry out that mission. Naturally, Sidwell would prefer to leave no evidence that could link him to Dalton's potential downfall. There is a chance that Sidwell could attempt to frame Sonny Corinthos due to his connection with Rocco Falconeri, thereby creating yet another complication for the mob boss. Alternatively, Sidwell might simply wish for Dalton to vanish, or could try to stage the situation to appear as an accident. Regardless of the approach, it seems that Dalton's time is running out, so be sure to stay tuned for any updates regarding the ominous developments surrounding the professor. Be sure to catch up on everything happening with GH right now. Come back here often for General Hospital spoilers, news, and updates. General Hospital spoilers tease that Nathan West is now working with Harrison Chase. Yes, the PCPD is that desperate. At the same time, Chase is trying to prove that Willow Tate did not shoot Drew Kane. What are the chances that Nathan sees or hears something he shouldn't between the two exes? We'd say excellent, seeing as how substitute commish Dante Falconeri told him to keep an eye on Chase. Dante is acting commish because Anna Devane is MIA, and that's why he hired amnesiac Nathan to keep the streets safe. It makes little sense, but we suspect this chain of events to result in a spectacularly soapy outcome, especially given that it's November sweeps. Mayor Laura Collins put Dante in charge, and one of the first things he did was welcome Nathan back. After Anna told him she wouldn't hire him, Nathan will keep a close eye on Chase at a time when he is endangering his badge by running a private investigation on the side. In the November 12th episode, Chase's wife, Brooke Lynn Quartermain, warned Chase about becoming overly involved in Willow's case. This could foreshadow Chase's obsession getting him in trouble. If Nathan does witness Chase cheating with Willow, what would he do? After all, Willow is his niece, and he wouldn't want to hurt her in any way. Despite his good intentions, Chase could make Willow's situation worse if he oversteps. And if he crosses a line romantically, his marriage to Brooke Lynn could be kaput. We suspect that Nathan tells Dante if Chase is inappropriate with Willow, and it seems a sure bet that Dante would tell Brooke Lynn if Chase strays. Red-hot General Hospital spoilers tease that Nathan may be between a rock and a hard place in his new job shadowing Chase. Do you think that Chase will cheat with Willow? And if he does, who should he fear more, BLQ or Tracy Quartermain? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates. Your opinions matter, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.